What's going on? This is Kevin Paulin.
And I'm Ben Backus.
And welcome to the Falling Up Podcast. Today we have Mr. Kevin Guest, resident of Hamden, Connecticut, who has done some amazing things in the community and has used his falling up moment to propel him to not only amazing heights himself, but the community and family around him.
Yeah, and as you guys will hear, Kevin is the definition of what the Fallen Up Podcast is about, right? An individual who came into some trouble in his younger years, spent a lot of time incarcerated for that, and while incarcerated, he was able to use that time to really find the meaning and purpose in his life, which he talks about a lot, is how to link up your meaning and purpose with your passion.
All right. And one thing that that we always talk about is being selfless. You know, he took that passion and that his purpose and made it about others. And that instantly changed his quality of life and direction of his life. And again, that's a cheat code and one of the things we want to highlight and we're going to enjoy today on this episode.
Yeah, so without further ado, we'll bring you another episode
of the Falling Up Podcast. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
I'm very excited myself. Yes. One thing that me and Ben love to do is give people their flowers while they can smell them.
Awesome.
You know, I just want to personally not only thank you for being on the show, but thank you for being a presence in my personal life. As we spoke off camera, you were the first manager to hire me when I first came home from incarceration in 2014. And I will never forget it. The interview was right a couple days before my birthday, which is Halloween. Yes. And then my start date was November 14th. And I said on episode 1 that I cried in the interview.
Yes.
It was looking back, it was funny because I had the interview. I had this big suit on. Right? So the suit don't fit. This is my father's old suit. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? I'm just coming home. So he gave me a suit. Mm-hmm. I wore this suit to the interview. I got this baggy suit on. And then I feel like the interview's going good. And then Mr. Guest says, okay, step outside for a minute. The worst 3 minutes of my life. You hear me? Mm-hmm. I was outside. I was sweating bullets in that hot suit. Mm-hmm. And came back in and said, yeah, you want to offer you the job? And I cried. Yes. And I just really am so appreciative of that opportunity because that opportunity was something that I was really craving. Mm-hmm. I just wanted a shot.
Absolutely.
And you gave me a shot. And like I told you that day, I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to take full advantage of it. And I'm proud to say that I did. So I just am forever grateful to you for just believing in me.
Absolutely.
You know, when I really didn't believe in myself. I was just shooting a shot and hoping it went in. But, you know, you helped me make that shot, and I appreciate you.
Not a problem. You're saying when I saw you on that day, I saw the passion for change. Mm-hmm. And it's not so much of what you had far as, you know what I'm saying, academics-wise. It was more because you had a heart for people. Mm-hmm. And the interview you're saying showed according to the questions that was answered, was really from the heart. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather have somebody who has passion for something that outweighs education because you can learn the things as you go. But if you don't have a heart for something, it's going to be difficult, you know, saying to really try to implement education and purpose and passion together. Mm. So I saw that in you that day.
Oh, well, I appreciate you seeing it. And we all three of us have something in common for our guests. We're talking about a company, a local shelter in New Haven. And, you know, us three all worked there at one time. And, you know, off the camera, talk about how enjoyable that experience was. So let's talk about your experience at that company and what you were able to do in the community starting in your role there.
So the year of 2003, I went up to fill out an application at the Columbus House, and I was kind of nervous because I wasn't too sure whether they would accept somebody who actually was just coming out of prison. And when I found out later on that they use the opportunity to invite people who were ex-offenders to come there. And when I found that out, I was like excited. But at the time, I didn't know it when I got into the interview. And they actually opened the doors for people who wanted to have employment at the Columbus House. And when I had that interview, I was excited when I left. Nervous when I came, but excited when I left because I started speaking from my heart. And it wasn't from the fact that I had any type of education in that background, but it was more of the fact that because I had a heart and a desire for people. And like I said off camera before, I didn't go to school for human services. I went to school for engineering and electronics. So it's like, apples and oranges. It didn't match.
Right.
But once I found out that people was my passion and I had the desire to make a change, then that's when my growth became knowing what it was I was here on this earth to do. And Columbus House gave me that opportunity. It was a great stepping stone that used me to get me where I'm at today.
And how did you find out that people were your passion? Because that is, I can think in my life where I had this accident, I broke my back, and kind of the only thing that kind of gave me purpose was trying to give back and share my experience. Because I think it takes a unique situation to be driven to helping.
Yes.
So what was that for you?
Well, I didn't really know what it was. Because so you can go through this life and not really know your purpose. It originated from my mother. My mother she had a heart of gold. She would actually go be at a bus stop, at a grocery store, whatever, and be able to start up a conversation. And then at the same time, she would begin to give her time, give her, her money, or whatever the case may be. We called her Mama Do, because she's always doing. Don't have a conversation in her presence that you need something, because in the next 2 days, she'll have it for you. So, and when I was at the Columbus House, I began to see that I had the ability to interact with people and become, the solution to their problems. And it wasn't so much saying, okay, here's, some food, or here's some cosmetics, but it was more of the fact that giving them the ability to say, you know what, I can make a change, I can make a difference. And when I saw that, it sparked something into me. And then when people would leave, get housing, and then they will stay out and not get caught up into the revolving door, I saw them outside of Columbus House, and I see that their life was progressing and it was making a change, and they wasn't coming back. So, and one of the things was the fact that I wanted to find out, there was a lot of people who were coming back. And when I found out that issue, it actually sparked up, my nonprofit, which we'll talk later. But
Right. We're going to definitely dig into that.
Can I take a step back really quick?
Please.
Because you mentioned incarceration, and my mind is immediately very, very curious in what your experience was and what that journey was to go from being incarcerated to then developing this passion to work with others, having this education in electronic and technology,
engineering.
Engineering.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here wondering, what is it that sparked this journey, and what led to the incarceration, and what life was like before being of service and really dedicating your life to helping others?
Okay, so the main causes that caused me to be incarcerated was the fact that when I was in high school, I always loved education. I wanted high school to go up to 15th grade. People looked at me like, whoa, you mean 15th grade? They were ready to get out. So in that process of me so engulfed in school, and playing basketball, just the education behind it, and then the environment, was really stimulating to me. So I got so caught up in school that I wasn't preparing for college. So I missed out of connecting with my guidance counselor, which caused me to miss out a year of going to school. So I didn't come from high school and went straight into college. I was high school, and then I went to the streets. So I ended up selling drugs. I wanted to go to school so bad because I missed the opportunity to speak with my guidance counselor. So I started selling drugs to get money so I can go to school, because I didn't get the financial aid, because I wasn't, being focus on what I needed to do with my guidance counselor. So I was guided the wrong way because I had no guidance. So
Gotcha.
I ended up going into the streets, but I still had the desire to want to learn. I wanted to go to college. And I end up going to college, and then at the same time, I was selling drugs to get the money to go to school. And then I was selling drugs while I was at school too. So I was caught up into the situation that I wanted to do something good, but I did something bad to get it.
So in that transition year, right, where you finish high school, there was this gap. What was the process? Was it just, hey, all of a sudden there's this opportunity and there's no structure in my life, so I'm going to sell drugs? Or how did that kind of idea come to mind where I'm going to start selling drugs?
Well, the idea was actually presented to me. It was one gentleman you're saying that I was in school with. He presented the opportunity, and I started a little bit, and then I just stopped. But then I began to look at the fact that I wanted to go to school, and then somebody else came into my path, and they actually introduced me. You're saying, like, listen, well, you can make some good money. You're saying, while you're out, when you're not in school. So I took the opportunity. I started, saving my money and not intending for to be caught up continuously selling drugs. Because the thing is, you can't just be on the street selling drugs and not expect, the gunfire, the cops, the people who are trying to rob you, and everybody else is trying to come at you. So you can't just say, I just want this.
Right.
It's all a package.
Yeah.
Whether you're expecting it or not. So it caught me off guard that a lot of my friends, we were selling drugs together, and then this one particular friend, he got shot. So when he got shot right in front of me. And then what happened was I came back later that day along with somebody else, and then there was a serious amount of gunfire that was going on. And then a friend of mine, he got shot. It was never intended for him, but it never came from my gun. It came from somebody else's gun. But because you're saying that I was a part of that, they implemented me. They implemented me in that situation, and then I end up getting 15 years. So here it is. I'm spending all my 20s in jail, and I thought my life was over. Within the first 2 years.
So this is like a year out of high school?
No, actually, I spent some time. I was still out because I went to school too. I spent some time in Virginia. I went to Norfolk State, so I spent time. So it was actually on vacation.
HBCU.
Yes.
Shout out to HBCUs.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
So I came back from Norfolk State on a vacation, and this is the situation happened because of the time that I got out, I still was selling drugs. Even when I went to college, I still was selling drugs. I was selling drugs, on the campus, off campus, all over. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do, but it was something that I felt that it was needed for that time.
And I want to touch on that for 1 minute because I think there's something really interesting and I want to make sure too, I'm hearing you right in this, is I start selling drugs in this gap year between high school and college. Yes. And it sounds like the thought process was this is a means to an end. When I get into college, I can stop doing that. Or was it, I'm going to do this indefinitely? No,
it wasn't I'm going to do this indefinitely. It was just a temporary thing.
Right.
So, you got to understand that people you're saying if you don't have a sense of strength of where the direction you want to go and stay on that focus there, people can influence you to do things that you just don't want to do. So pretty much it was, I was being influenced in a direction that I just didn't want to do, but I also used the means to actually bring me back into school.
Yeah.
Because my desire, my passion was to, go to school and finish and actually, I love electronics. I love to fix things, and I learned that thing when I was a kid. I picked up my first, you remember the Hillhead football games or basketball games? And when I began to fix things and I showed them, my mother says, oh, a toaster's broke. Oh, the VCR is broke. And all the stuff was broken. And I didn't really have all the things that I need to fix it, but I did. So that it actually sparked something in me. So I ended up taking it in Wilbercross. I took it for like 3 years in Wilbercross, and then it extended of me wanting to go to Norfolk State for engineering electronics. So actually I would be behind the scenes drawing up, the architect behind the math, with the resistors, capacitors, saying the voltage, the current, the power. I learned all that stuff, but it ended up going to another direction when I went to prison, and this is where I began to try to find out who I was, because I thought my life was over when I went to prison. I really thought my life was over. Being a young kid, spending all my 20s in jail and looking at 15 years and no suspended time, and there was a time that I thought that I wasn't going to get out. And then within 4 months, I met the Creator. I had an encounter with him, and that encounter changed my life. And I thought, and as you saying, like falling up, that was actually my setback for my setup.
Talk about it.
And it allowed me to see me. I had to find out who I was, and incarceration was necessary, because at the time, when the judge sentenced me to 15 years, my heart was changed, but my mind wasn't.
So what is it? Can you explain that?
So meaning that if he was to let me go out on the streets, I will never do it again. But because my mind wasn't changed, my mind is only going to do what it always knows to do. It is your steering wheel to your future. So whatever you know, that which you're going to do. So if all I know was the streets, then guess what? Eventually, I would eventually go back to the streets. Right. Although at the same time trying to pursue an education, and you can't just be standing on the fence of danger and great.
Right.
So you have to make a choice.
And and what you just said is such an incredibly powerful thing, and I think it is something that we do not spend not enough time talking about. When we behave in ways for extended periods of time, those behaviors become automatic, and a lot of times they become unconscious. And to say I'm going to do something else a lot of times is almost impossible, because we're so conditioned to do that thing and get all the things from that. And saying you don't know what you don't know. Hey, if I don't know what the alternative route has to offer, is there even an alternative route?
Exactly. And that's where I was stuck at. And I think that the transformation of my mind of just finding out who I was in God, and then finding out who I am as a person. Because the thing is, if you don't know who you are, you're not going to know where you're going. And it's important to find out why you're here. Everybody's here for a purpose. So when I found out what my purpose was, it was exciting. And then I began to add more to who I was to find out. Because people are only attracted to attractive people. And I'm not saying about the physical. They're attractive, to very inspirational things that are about you that want them to change. So let's say, for instance, people are attracted, to basketball players, TV stars, Michael Jordan, you got the Oprah Winfrey, you have the Denzel Washington. They are attractive because they made themselves attractive. Right. So in order for you to be attractive, you have to add value to yourself.
Right. Personal development.
Personal development is very necessary. So I begin to add personal development and to add God into my life, because if you really want to know who you are, watch yourself when no one's looking. And if you don't like who you are when no one's looking, then you need to make that change. And that was the change that I needed, because I didn't like who I was. I was going in the wrong direction, and prison stopped me to say, stop, look, and listen to who you are.
So there's a few things that are coming to mind. One, you used saying God came into your life. For you, what is God? Who is God? What does that look like?
Well, here's the thing is, if you're desperately seeking truth will reveal itself. And many people, they might go down the road, you're saying Islam. They might go down the road, you're saying of Hinduism. They might go down the road, you're saying of just Baptist, or whatever the case may be. If your heart is truly sincere about finding the one and only true God, he will reveal himself. And I was broken, I was lost. And when I began to seek him, then he began to show me himself. And And I found it, you're saying, finding it, seeking through Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, you're saying he is my Lord and Savior, so it was the sincerity, because I wanted to make a change in my life. I wasn't looking, you're saying, to be this great preacher, great minister. I wasn't looking for that. I was hurt. I was lost. And I was just seeking some healing and some direction in my life. And being in prison made a big difference. It was my turning point.
So how long into your sentence did you have this kind of discovery?
4 months.
4 months.
4 months.
So,
wow.
4 months.
So what was that like, making this kind of discovery 4 months in and knowing, hey, I still have 15 years to serve?
It was more of like how you're saying you begin to have something like a toy or something that a kid wants, and you just tease them. So it was always like I'm seeing this change in my life, and I'm seeing something new, and the revelation of truth came upon me, but I couldn't be out in the world, you're saying, to share it. I couldn't share it, you're saying, with my friends and my family, because the change that I had in my life. So it was almost like, man, I just can't wait. But the thing is, people are there. Why do I have to wait to be outside the walls, to show the change?
Right.
The change was there. And at that point in my life, I didn't need to share or have the judge or the prosecutor or the lawyer know that I made a change, because it wasn't for them anymore.
Right.
It was all about, the change for me. So when I got that change, then I'm like, oh, this is exciting, because now I'm finding more about me and what things need to be changed. And I remember one time, right, I was in my cell. Literally, I was hurting, I was lost, and I out on my knees, and I prayed, and I was praying what I wanted to share with God, but what came out of my mouth was not in my heart. It was not in my mind. And I said, Lord, I am a mess. Moments later after that, you're saying you're about to become a masterpiece. And I'm looking around, and I'm saying to myself, where did that come from? It came from out of my mouth, but it didn't come from out of my intellect, because I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking that I was hurt, that I was lost. And then the words that came momentarily right after that, it says, you're about to be a masterpiece. And I'm like, in prison within these walls, like, really?
Right.
But I'm seeing the progression and the progress that we're seeing of the change that what God is doing in my life, because I desire, to grow and to be someone great. I want to leave a footprint when I leave Earth.
That's right.
Of who I am, but my footprint is my DNA. I want to leave an impact on somebody's life. I don't care if it's just one or two people. I just want to leave an impact.
And is that kind of your idea of what the meaning of life is?
Yes. The meaning of life is impacting people, making a change in life. You're saying leaving a legacy of who you are.
Yeah.
It's not about the things. It's not about the money. It's not about the positions. It's just all about, the presence. You're saying of what you leave when somebody, you're saying, so it's an honor, you're saying, to really meet you guys, you're saying, because you guys have something to give back. And guess what? If you look at your fingers, there's fingerprints there, and they're unique, and they're one of a kind. What that says to me is that I'll never meet nobody like you.
Right.
There's no one on this earth that has the same fingerprints that you have. And because you have those fingerprints, that means that you're uniquely made, and you're special, and you have something to offer. And that is the thing I want to be able to, the ones who are the outcasts, the ones, who are laid underneath the bridges, the ones who are laid on the side of the road, who just reject them, don't even give them a look. God made them as well too. They have a uniqueness. Yeah,
and that the meaning is very much in line with what I try to spend a lot of time thinking of, how. And I really like that, the analogy with the fingerprints. And what's interesting, we all have our unique fingerprints, but we all got fingerprints.
Yes.
And when we come together, we all serve this role of progressing mankind.
Yes.
Right? And from the people who are looking out to make sure the meteors aren't going to come and crash in and take us out and end this existence, from the doctors putting us back together, from the individuals who are, every single role is so valuable.
Yes.
And although we are all unique together, we're incredibly powerful.
Right. That's the beauty of it.
It is.
Yeah. So what did your support system look like during your time in incarceration?
It was great, man. It was really, really great. I began to meet people that I never met before, and they were also going in the same direction that I was going, as far as just wanting to make a difference and making a change within a life. But you can't make a difference until you make a change in your life. And then also the change in your life should always be continuous. It should never stop, meaning that life is always about learning. I don't never appear to know everything. And that's why it's important, you're saying, to be in contact with the uniqueness of people, because their paths of life are different than yours. Even when the culture is not like your culture, I want to learn about it because it's who you are.
Right.
It's how you was raised. And not only that, your perspective on things may be different from mine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It's how you look at things, you know, and I learned a lot of things being in prison, that there are many different cultures are there, and then you can have a culture shock. It begins, you know, saying to say, okay, let me look back and see what they're saying and see where they're coming from, because you can't always just bring your own your culture, your ideologies, you're saying, and say that that's all right, because it might be something different for somebody else. You know, and I learned a lot of things there in that support system when we came together and began to learn more about it. It was very helpful. Far as my support system on the outside, it wasn't that big.
Okay.
It was almost like, you know, saying I had to be left alone to find out who I am. You know, and that happened. But I did have, you know, saying some visits. I had some phone calls and stuff like that. But it wasn't really strong. But I don't hold them against it because it was necessary.
I love how you mentioned that change is continuing, because I think that's something that I can often kind of fall victim to the idea that, hey, I made a change and now I'm done. I'm good. I've arrived. And what I've kind of come to find out in my life is we're always changing, right? We always have these little goals in our life, whether we know they're goals or not, they're still there. And we're either moving towards them or we're moving away from them. And that's why I don't believe that there's such thing as being complacent, because if you're complacent, you're naturally moving backwards.
Absolutely.
And that was just something when you said that really sparked something.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, you know what I'm saying, because potential, you're saying, is that very thing that you become, but yet not haven't got there. There are goals. So actually, once you have reached that potential, it's no longer potential anymore. But yet there's still more potential, which is change in your life. And that is the thing that actually keeps you going as long as you don't be complacent.
Right. And it's maintaining that change too, right?
Yes.
Where we change because we do very specific things, right? I'm trying to develop more self-esteem. So I make my bed every day. I brush my teeth every day. I take a shower every day. I feel good. I feel better about myself. And then I stop doing those things and I wonder why all of a sudden I start feeling crappy about myself again. So it's maintaining that change by really understanding, hey, these are the things that even created the change in the first place.
Yes.
How do I keep doing those things?
You know what? The root word of maintain is management. We have to learn how to manage us and manage the things that come into our life. You're saying, because management is leadership. You have to learn how to take leadership of your own doings. And if you want people to follow you, you have to maintain.
Right. And that ties in too, where you're talking about this idea of attraction, right? When you see people who are maintaining and have done really great things, there's something really attractive about that. And I know that's like, I can speak very genuinely when I say like, that's why I think we hit it off so much, is I was very much attracted to your desire to continue to get better.
Yeah, likewise. Absolutely.
And I see other people in my life who may not be in my life because they don't have those attractive qualities.
And it was common interest.
Right.
To grow.
Right.
Right.
You know, it's important to have your circle. You know, your circle is your nucleus. It is it's the thing that really stimulates you. And you have to be careful who you put in your circle, because we can unintentionally invite somebody who think that is a part of the circle, but yet you're saying they can bring some negative stuff in there, and it could cause problems in the nucleus. You know, in Jesus, he had his circle. He will pull aside. Peter Peter, James, and John, you know, saying, and he would actually share some things that he wouldn't share with everybody else. There's certain things that when you have in that circle, it's only meant for that circle, you know, and it's important to always have in that circle that somebody can sharpen your mindset.
Challenge you.
Yes, definitely. Right. You say, because my philosophy of life is, because when you mentioned, Ben, about you're saying when you're doing these positive things and you're progressing, and sometimes you have to leave people behind, because the thing is, if you're always the teacher in your circle, it's time to find somebody, another
Without a
teacher.
doubt.
You know, you can't always be the teacher. You also have to learn how to be the student, because if you're always the teacher, you're only going to know what you know. And even though you're progressing, you're still learning some things, but there's some things about an experience that somebody may have that you can learn from. Right. You know, because their experience is their experience. It may not be yours, but they can give you, and you learn from their faults.
Yeah,
and their downcomings.
And there's a saying in self-help groups that goes, they'll get me drunk before I get them sober, or they'll mess me up before
Absolutely.
I bring them up. And it is so true that it is so, even with the best intentions, it's a lot easier to stoop down than it is to rise above when given
Absolutely.
the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
And having that support system where, hey, I don't rely on one person for everything. I'm able to go to my different people for different things, and then be able to also give back to kind of be able to keep what I have. I got to give it away.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, I agree. So it's just excited, you know, saying just to have, you know, my circle. There's a lot of guys who are in prison that I had a good support system, and I still talk to this day. There are a lot of them who are occasionally I talk to. There's some that just went out of the loop. But mentioning and having that support system, you're saying, is definitely necessary in your life journey, because no one man is an island. You can't survive by yourself.
No, not a way. No way.
You have to have other people in your life. And you know, I at sometimes I could be a monk, you know, but while I'm a monk, I'm learning something. I'm always, you know what I'm saying, researching. I'm always reading, so I can build myself up for someone else. And it's never just meant for me, you know, because I'm also a teacher at my church, and I love teaching. But there was a time that you're saying that I was afraid to speak in front of people. You know, when I was afraid, man. When I was at NSU, I had to take a speaking class. I said, oh my God. I said, but this is God was preparing me, you're saying, with that which is to come, because I was afraid to talk in front of people. Because my sentences were short. I didn't, you know, saying, bring the adjective and the verbs, you know, saying, and the nouns together in certain things, and I would actually display something that just didn't make sense because I was nervous. Right. It wasn't the fact that I didn't know what I wanted to say. I just didn't know how to articulate it because the nervousness being in front of people was tough to do. But she taught me, she says, listen, you're going to get somebody in your class, and you're going to find out what's their name, how old they are, where they're from, and what they like to do. I said, okay, that's easy. So when I did that, I presented the person to the class, and the class received it, and they understood it. So that right there gave me encouragement. I said, you know what? I think I could do this. But I still had a long way to go to how to project and get my word across to the people, and not without being nervous. Oh, very nervous, man. I never liked. Yes,
but that's a hard thing to do. It's the definition of vulnerable, right? You're up in front of everyone. All eyes are on you. Yes. They're honing in on every word you're saying. It can be a really it can be an overwhelming experience. Yes. Public speaking.
It definitely can. Just from what I've known you for these years, though, I would never guess. Never guess you get nervous in front of people. I'll never guess that. So that's you overcame that.
I did.
Well, you also practiced, right? It wasn't that it magically disappeared. It was, hey, I took this class, then I had all these steps along the way where I had this opportunity to speak to people, and you are very, very well spoken and articulate. So clearly you have miles and miles and miles under your belt.
Oh, yeah. I have to say that recently, because I don't like watching myself on recordings.
Oh, I hate it. I
can't stand it. But
with this right here, I was like,
I hear back and I just want to smack myself in the face every time.
Every time. Like, why did I say that?
Yes, you know, we are our worst critic, you know, and
right.
So I just recently, I want to say a month and a half ago, I actually looked at one of my recent teachings, and I looked at it, and I'm like, wow, I saw the change that I was looking for. Although you may say that I had ability to articulate when I was at the Clemens House, I don't think so, because I think I put a hard charge on myself. Because I have the desire to want to be a motivational speaker. So when I look at stuff like that, it just disgusts me because I know I can do better.
I got you.
So now it puts me back, saying in the drawing room to really say, well, Kev, you could have said it this way. You could have, said a different word or projected a different way so you can really get your point across. So I don't like looking at it. I really don't. So there was this one gentleman at my church, he said, you're always saying, know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Know what I'm saying? So that was actually from the streets.
Right.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know what you're saying because you keep saying, I know what you're saying. So when I look back at the recording, I said, this has to change.
This has to change.
If I want to be an effective speaker and a motivational speaker, I have to change that because you cannot get your point across if you're always speaking in these layman terms or these short phrase sentences and stuff like that, that people just like, what is he really trying to say? I know what I'm saying here, but know how to verbally articulate that. It's still tough.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's still tough.
Yeah. I say a lot. I'm like, I'm about to start, meditating or something.
Mm-hmm.
I do a whole bunch. And do you think you're ever too hard on yourself?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I'm very hard on myself.
Think too hard though? Because there gotta be a balance, right?
I don't think that I'm too hard on myself personally.
Okay.
But when it comes to public, I am. Because the public is where you get to see you. People get to see you. They don't see you in your private, in your dark moments. No. They don't see when you're in your point of disciplining and learning and reading or whatever. They don't see that. All they see is what you put out on the stage. So when I put out on the stage, I want people to really see or hear what I'm trying to say. But it comes from years of being secluded, being in the dark, training and reading and researching and looking in front of that mirror and actually saying that speech or that lesson that you're trying to possess in front of people. It takes time. They don't, just like the Michael Jordans and the Scottie Pippens and the LeBrons, they practice a lot. But when they come out on the stage, it's almost if, oh man, they're just great gift, to the world. But they don't see all the hardships and all the missed layups and the jump shots and the blocks. They don't see all that stuff. So when it's times to present yourself, you want to present yourself, in the most effective way that people will know, okay, he left an imprint.
Yeah, you sound like Ben right now.
I don't know about that.
No, he does though. In terms of like, Ben's not about luck. Ben's about being prepared and working for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, that's what all the greats do.
Yeah, and those beautiful moments where you really come through and you have your best presentation. I know for me, 20 moments where I failed miserably. I going from literally passing out in the middle of public speaking, pissing myself in the middle of public speaking.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and getting into arguments with the crowd. Like, there's been all sorts of pretty terrible moments that I reflect back on. I'm like, oh man.
I was gonna say, why didn't you tell me? But
those were some. Looking back, there's some of like the greatest. If I can overcome literally urinating in my pants on stage in front of hundreds of people. What else is going to be thrown my way that I can't deal with in real time, right?
I don't know what's worse, tomatoes or piss.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's. I think every time we get out there and we do our craft, we have the ability to improve it. And I've never met anyone who has put in the work day in and day out and didn't develop really meaningful tools that they can use in real time in whatever craft they're doing.
Right. So I don't hate my faults. I don't hate my failures. They're there to teach me. They're there to teach all of us. So I look at, which is one of my other philosophies, that failure is just an opportunity to begin more intelligently. So when I fail, I learn. but I have to look at my failure. I just can't fail and then run. Because how are you going to learn from your failures? Because your failures teach you. If you never fail in life, you will never know what right to do. You just won't know. You think like winners. If winners always won and never lost, when they lose, they will experience a defeat that was so detrimental that they won't know how to get back up again.
Yeah, resiliency is a hell of a skill.
Yes.
And it is a skill. And I think all of these things, whether it's being resilient, whether it's having discipline, whether it's having motivation, so many times we look at the LeBrons of the world, right? The people at the top of their craft, the Bradys of the world, and we say, hey, these people were just naturally motivated or naturally talented. And I think that is the biggest misconception.
It is.
Discipline is a skill. Motivation is a skill. It's something you have to do to acquire. And I don't wake up one day and have the burning desire to go and do something over and over again for hours and hours and hours. No, that's built like tolerance, right?
Absolutely.
It's built up. So I have a question that's a little off topic. So do you ever get resentful or kind of pissed off looking back where it's, hey, I spent 15 years of my life incarcerated for something I didn't really do?
Absolutely not, because I did something wrong. You know, so I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, just because you're saying I didn't get incarcerated for the thing that I did, but for the very things that I didn't get caught for, I didn't get incarcerated.
That's how I felt.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I did something wrong. So it was necessary, because it wasn't so much that the thing that I got caught for is the fact that I needed to make a change. I needed to come to a turning point in my life, and prison was that turning point. Now, corrections, as they say, the Department of Corrections, is only for people who want to correct themselves, because the system itself doesn't correct you.
At all.
All they do is just put you in the cell and you're saying to the door. You have to make the decision, because the resources are there. You know, you just have to say, okay, I need to make a change now. And sometimes when you're running life rampantly, sometimes you need to hit a brick wall and say, stop, because you're running too fast, man. You have to find out who you are. And the thing is, I had the desire for education, to want to learn more. And from that point on, I said, you know, I started just reading. And I hated reading in school. I hate it. Although you're saying I did pretty good in school, but I hated reading because it caused me to really take time and find out, you're saying, like, what are they saying? And actually just put it on paper, because sometimes you had to read a book and then you had to write an essay, you had to write so forth. I didn't like doing those things, but I did love education. I wanted to learn. So I think one of the things that really put me on my path really is when I got out of college and I heard Miles Monroe. Miles Monroe, he said, he mentioned about a professor, and one of the things when I look back at my professor, because what the professor does, he comes in, he says, all right, you're going to read these 2 chapters, and then by next week, I need to have a 500-word essay on this particular chapter, so I said. And then he would sit down and do nothing. So I didn't learn it then, but when Miles Monroe brought it back, I looked and I channel, and I'm saying, why am I paying this school all this money for a man to tell me to read a book? So I caught on to it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start reading this, because I desire to want to learn more about it. I don't need for a man to tell me to pick up a book and read. But the school was designed to say, okay, I'm going to teach you. These are the principles. These are the things that you're going to learn about this subject. And then after, when you graduate, we're going to approve of it. I don't need someone's approval to tell me to read a book, to learn something. Right. So ever since then, I got my CDL license. I got my master scale house operation license. I got my pesticide license. I got a motorcycle license. I know how to work in the OCR mailroom. I learned all this stuff because that one principle of saying, I don't need to pay all this money to go. Because when I was behind a truck, I worked for the city of New Haven. Yep. I was behind a truck. And I asked the question, I said, how much you make? He said $20-something at the time. It was like $20-something at the time. So he was making twice as much I was making and then some. I said, well, how is it that I'm doing the same job that you're doing And then you're making much more than that money. And I asked him, Chris, how do you do it? He said, you have a CDO license? I said, no. Immediately, I went to DMV. I got the book. I took the test. I gave it to the boss. I says, I passed the written test. Can I use that truck to take the driving test? They said, absolutely. And I didn't go to school for it. And I didn't pay all this money for them to give me something that I can do on my own. Right. And I learned that principle. And so to this day, I don't knock college. I don't knock that because it's necessary. But you want to find out what is important and what you can do on your own to pay somebody money to tell you to read a book. So now I invest in myself. I don't care how much the book costs. I don't care how much I invest in myself. I go buy it and purchase it myself.
It is the quickest and I would say most efficient way to gain information is through reading. You have individuals who have dedicated their whole lives to working on very specific subjects, who then take everything they've learned and put it in writing on pages for us to read. Right. They've done the work for us. Now all we have to do is put it into our brains.
Absolutely.
And it's something that we're passionate about, actually apply it so we really solidify it, right? And there's clearly a common theme here, right? Where the moment where, Kevin, you made a huge change was through reading. Yeah. Right. And I hear the same thing here where that was something that sparked you don't know what you don't know. Well, now I have an avenue into this new way of thinking, a new way of living.
Yes. Knowledge.
So is that a mistake that just going back to the incarceration and for those that are struggling with changing, because just going back, you said your heart would change, but your mind wasn't changed. Right. That's one of the mistakes that brothers and sisters make when they recidivize, right? They're not changing. Like, what would you say to that person that's at that point where they're falling and they haven't really went direction up or down? They're really at this
stagnant stage.
Right. Like, what would you tell them to motivate them to seek that knowledge?
Well, the first thing I always ask the question is, what is it that you like to do? You want to get to the core. You want to get to a place where you can find that they will do something without getting paid for it. And once you find out what your purpose is, your purpose, saying, will help you. And it won't, your purpose doesn't push you. Your purpose pulls you. There's a difference between a push and a pull. When something pushes you, after a while, you'll say, they're going to get tired of pushing you. So that's like that motivational person that just pushes you. But now you need something that to pull you to your goal, pull you to your destiny, and pull you to your purpose, because your purpose will never let you down. But you just got to hold on to it and find out what it is. So I asked the question, what is it that you like to do? That is your purpose. That is your why. When you have that passion with your purpose, you would do it, and you would do it gratefully. Right. Not to say that you, like I said before, you won't want to get paid for it, but even if you just get a small salary for it, the greatest compliment of your salary is making a change in somebody else's life.
That's right.
So my salary will compensate my gratitude that I did for that person, that I'm so grateful for it, that they making a change in your life. So it is the purpose, asking that question, why, and what is the thing that you like to do?
I know there may not be an answer for this, but if someone were to tell you, hey, I don't know what I like to do, or they pick something that is just instantly gratifying, right? What can you then kind of say to them, if anything, to help them maybe uncover what it is that they enjoy?
Search.
Yeah.
Search. Keep searching.
Yeah.
Because if you don't seek, you don't find. You understand, the people that don't know, they never sought what it is that they want. In order for you to find something, you have to seek it. You have to start somewhere, because eventually you're saying, while you're on this road of seeking your purpose, you're eventually going to find out what it is, because like Highway 95 and 91, that intersection right there in New Haven. Yep. Eventually you're saying you're either going to continue on 91 or you're going to go off to 95. Which direction? But your exit is going to come if you just go. Go and find out what it is, because eventually you're saying someone in your path is going to spark something about you. They're going to see something because you're moving. But when you're just a person that just don't know, a person who just don't know is a person who's not moving.
Right.
So just walking in life and just, I want to say, just appearing and not really living That's a person you're saying that just doesn't have any hope, but there's still something in them. And you have to be able to have that ability to pull that thing out. And when you search, you'll find. You just got to keep seeking. Yeah. Like, if you have, let's say, your keys, you in order for you to seek your keys, you have to first have possession of it. So if I have my keys, I'm like, oh, Kev, man, Ben, I lost my keys. I can't find them. And then we come back into this room, and guess what? Oh, they're right there. In order for you to have something or seek for something, you got to first have it. So your purpose is there. You have it, but you got to look for it.
That's right.
I think that
you have to find it.
That can be such a hard part, looking for it, because it involves the ultimate form of vulnerability, right? What if I go try something and I don't like it?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where do I even begin to look? Mm-hmm. Right? Especially if I'm so used to, again, doing the same thing over and over and over. How can I get the energy or the motivation or just the curiosity to put myself in a situation where I might be able to find purpose? I think that, I know for a long time, was where I got stuck with, right? Mm-hmm. It's so comfortable getting high. It's so comfortable doing these things that I know reliably what the outcome is going to be, give or take.
Right.
Right. And if I were to go out and join a new group, or if I were to go out and go to wherever, what's going to happen to me, right? I think that
the fear of the unknown.
The fear of the unknown.
Right.
Fear, as we know, false evidence appearing real. But to the person who's fearful, it's real.
And when we have that false evidence appearing real, there's two things we can do. We can face everything and recover, or fuck everything and run.
Yo, listen.
Cuss jar. Cuss jar.
So the reality about it, just, you got to face your fear, because the thing is, my fearful thing was speaking in front of people. But if I don't face it, I don't know what's on the other side of it. And then when I come to realize that what was on the other side of it, it was just my mentality behind it, my mindset. I'm like, it's not that bad.
Right.
So what was I fearing? I was fearing, but just fear itself of the unknown.
Right.
So when you face those things and you realize, you're saying, as time go on, you continue to keep facing your fears, you realize that the fact that this fear is really nothing big at all.
Well, your fear is just your idea of what's going to happen, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to get I have this job interview and I'm terrified. Why am I afraid? Well, I'm telling myself that I'm going to make a fool of myself, or I'm not going to know what to say, or I'm not qualified. It's all of these ideas of the situation. Whereas the reality is, let me show up and do it, and I'm going to find out.
Exactly.
Right? And worst case are my fears come true. That is the worst thing that's going to happen, is everything I'm telling myself about a situation is going to happen. And what's so bad about that?
It's the negative things that we speak to ourselves. We got to be careful of speaking the negative, because the negative will become your reality.
Well, it is the reality, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. So when begin to face these fears, the thing is, I don't ever want to have any regrets in my life, because everything that we do is a risk. Everything that we do is a risk. When you get married is a risk. When you look for a job is a risk. When you actually, start a business, it's a risk. The thing is, you're saying your life is a risk. You're not going to make it out alive, so why not take a risk? So now when you look back at your life, you don't want to have any regrets of coulda, woulda, shoulda. Because the fact is, you're not going to survive anyways. You're not going to make it out.
Right.
So why not live this one life that you have and live it to the fullest of your ability, whether you fell or not? At least as you live your life, you won't look back at no regrets. I tried this. I tried that. You're saying, because those coulda, woulda, shouldas are very, detrimental, to your life, because they hurt you along the way, and you're saying that I should have done that.
Yeah.
What's that fear?
And that's that regret.
That regret, that fear. And so, how, for both of y'all, how do you build that courage to change your perspective, to change your way of thinking, to have the desire to succeed?
Well, you want to just start with the fact that, because everybody doesn't have, saying that desire. You have to spark it. It might be an experience in your life. In my experience in life, for my awakening was prison.
Right.
But I did want to learn, and because, like I said, in high school and in elementary school, I had the desire to wanted to learn more. But I was learning something that wasn't my purpose. But was it essential to my life? Absolutely. Because so to this day, I love electronics, I love equipment, I love that. But that's not my purpose. This other things that are added on, to my purpose, which are attachments. Your main purpose, your main goal. You're saying you have this core, and then you might have other attachments. You're saying that are a part of your life. You're saying you might develop, your talents. You might develop some skills, but the main core is why you're here. And the thing is, when someone created something, they created it with a purpose. They not just created a thingamajig. Oh, we're going to call it that. Well, what does it do? Well, it has to have a purpose. So when the manufacturer and the designer design something, they design it with a purpose in mind. You'll never bring a screwdriver for a hammer job.
Right.
It will never be successful.
Right.
So when you take the hammer and you bang the nail, you will always nail it. Your purpose will always nail it for the thing that you're called to do. So I will never take a screwdriver for a hammer job, because the purpose of a hammer is to bang things, not to screw them. So that is, you're saying the thing. You have to find out, what were you created for? What is your purpose? What is your perfect design in your life?
Right.
And once you find that thing, can nobody stop you?
Nobody stop you.
No, that's it.
I felt like a 2-year-old there, just getting feedback, like seeing something and not knowing what it is, and then catching on to it like 5 minutes later. That was me right there.
Yeah.
I missed that slow motion.
Yeah. So I feel as though, I want to ask you if you agree. I feel as though every person has the same purpose of helping others. I feel like every person on this planet, purpose may look different, but the everyone's purpose is to help others. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely, because the thing is, whatever a person designs, whether let's say a laptop, is there, saying to give you information. That's some type of form of helping.
Right.
You're adding value to our system, and our way of life. It may not be directly, but it is some form of help. So it is. Everybody has a purpose here to help somebody in some form or fashion. And it may not be hands-on personally with somebody. Like I said, Apple, they perfectly designed something to make things easier for us to search and to develop, information.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of fill us in? I know at the top of this, you mentioned starting this nonprofit and working with them now. Can you kind of let us know what's going on with that and what that's looking like?
So Abstract, that's my baby. That is actually was birthed out of working for the Columbus House. And it came for the point where, when I mentioned before, that I would speak to the clients and I would ask them a question, who were actually repetitive in coming through the system in the revolving door. So I'm gathering all this information because I'm like saying to myself, what went wrong? Why are you back here? And I want to say some of the things you're saying, they said I couldn't afford it. You'll have a partial housing program, you're saying, without giving me stimulate maybe 3 months or 6 months, but yet their SSI, SSDI put probably over $1,100.
Right.
Okay, now after the 3 months is over, how do you survive off $1,100? So that thing right there, it hurted me because I'm saying to myself, how can a person be put out to society with just $1,100 after the 3 or 6 months program has ended? What could be done to help them continue to survive when they're on SSDI? You gotta understand, when you're on SSDI, it's difficult to try to find work because they're not gonna give you 40 hours.
Right.
You're only gonna implement a certain amount of hours, so how do you implement $1,100 plus, 15 hours a week?
Yeah. And just for our audience, because I know we know what SSDI is. SSDI, Social Security Disability Income, which is given to people that are deemed by a doctor or professional deemed unable to work.
Exactly. So I asked those questions. That was one of the issues. There were some other issues. So I'm saying to myself, okay.
Well, sabotage. The system is sabotage when it comes to that housing, when in the system of not just Columbus House, just in general, homelessness, the rapid rehousing is basically the system where you have this short-term subsidy and no one's addressing the client of how they even got there. So then after the 3 or 6 months, we're dealing with the same person who's now asked to now pay this rent without any guidance, without any follow-up. Well, after that 6 months, and now they're 3 months later, and now 9 months they're at the overflow, and we're asking what happened. And it's like you said, it's not addressing the client, more so just housing. And that's where me and Ben really sparked our conversation when it came to starting Winning Ways. We were just seeing this system that was flawed, and success was deemed they're housed, and that's it.
Right.
And then when they come back, it's a new case rather than, no, we failed this person.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that, so that right there sparked something for me to want to develop Abstract, because it's like we're giving them crutches, and eventually they're going to fall. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to take the crutch from them. And not only that, just taking the crutch, but giving them life skills, because a lot of them don't have life skills. They don't know how to pay a bill. They don't know how to do interviews. They don't know how to fill out applications. They're just stuck, and they're relying on the support system of the system rather than on themselves.
Right.
So I want to give them, you're saying, the life skills. I want to give them, you're saying, their why. And once you give somebody their why, that'll give them the direction where they need to go. And at the same time, yes, you give them some type of housing, or you give them bus pass, or you give them something to give them a little push. But at the same time, giving them a push. But what I said before, although my heart was changed, but my mind wasn't. It's the mindset of how to survive, how to really get things and make a change in your life. And that's what we weren't doing. We wasn't giving them a change. We're just giving saying something that was tangible.
Right.
Nothing intangible. Saying that actually can help them and strengthen them who they are as a person and find out who they are. So that was a Restore Life is all about. It's restoring people's life. Not just, giving something, to help them, pay a bill for a temporary time. It's just a temporary fix. I want to do a permanent change, a permanent fix. And that's the mindset. And when I learned that thing, I said, you know what? If Oprah could do it, if Michael Jordan could do it, if all these people could do it, they have the same 24 hours in the day just as well as I do. Why can't I do it?
That's right.
Just because I might start it at, at a lower position, but I'm not giving up. So, and these are people who are laid by the wayside, who are laid and, pushed out of the system as nothing. That's my passion. I want to help them. I want them to show the world that they are something great too. They're nothing different than we are. As we say, where there's a paycheck short of homelessness.
Right.
That was that saying around.
That's a fact.
So adding value, adding life skills to people, that is my purpose. I wanted to, because like I said, I learned all this stuff. I have all these certificates and licenses and stuff because I read, I picked up the book, and I learned from that one thing when that professor said, read these 2 chapters, write an essay. And I'm like, looking at, read. Why are you telling me to read? Why I can't do it myself? And I did it, and that's what I want to share with other people as well.
So where can people find it's Abstract?
It's actually Restore Life. Restore Life, we don't have a building yet, but I believe, the building will be coming soon. But right now it's more of getting the essentials that they needed, for, soap, shampoo, emergency blankets and stuff like that. I have care packages that I will pass around to people who are needed. You go to the bridges, you go to the boulevard or that area, or wherever they are. They might even standing on, by the highway, by the corner. If I have those essentials, I will give them.
So right now it's mainly you going out and providing it. So there's nowhere people can call or kind of get in contact yet. That's
right. I have a website.
Okay.
I have a website. You're saying is restorelife.inc.
Restorelife.inc.
Restorelife.inc, and you can find, you're saying, some of the things that are there. But far as the building and the full fledged of it, I should be getting a building real soon for that. So I'm excited about that, and I'm not giving up, pushing for that.
So our final question, we love to wrap the podcast up with this, is if you were to speak to an individual who is currently falling down and stuck and doesn't know that there's another way to live, what is the, and I know this is a hard question, but the one thing you would like to say to them right now?
Well, before I even say the one thing that I would like to say to them is you want to be able to find the relativeness. You have to learn how to relate to people. You have to find that common ground. It's not really an easy thing, like you said, to answer, but when you're speaking from that person, there has to be a relative ground, because you can't be fake to somebody. They're going to find out what it is. I can't go to school and get a degree in being a drug programmer if I don't use drugs, because eventually they're going to see the fakeness behind it. You can't be effective if you haven't experienced it yourself in that area. I'm not saying that you can't teach them something, but being effective. So once I see that person, you're saying, I begin to talk and find out what trying to relate to them is the fact that, well, my lowest point was prison. And here it is that I got a city job. I worked for the Columbus House. I actually got a position that I didn't go to school for. I did not have a degree, but I learned it. Like you said, I want your job.
Yeah.
I don't believe in, you're saying, just learning what you just have that position for. If there's another position that you desire, you start learning it.
That's right.
I don't want to wait for the position to be open and I'm not prepared for it. So as you said before, preparation is necessary, you're saying, for that which is to come. So my thing is always progression. I never want to stay here. I don't care how high I get, I still want to go higher, because it's the potential that God has placed in each and every one of us to fulfill,
Well, very, very, very much appreciate you coming out and having this conversation today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I did.
This is what it's all about, is being able to give back, and you're a testament to that, right?
Yes,
coming from, as you would say, a low spot in your life to now starting a nonprofit, working multiple jobs, and truly giving back and strengthening the communities it's just amazing. And I'm super grateful to be sitting here today with you.
Listen, I am grateful to be able to with you brothers, saying, and I know that this is going to be something great for you guys, and I can't wait to see the growth of it, and it's a great platform. So Ben, Kevin, I thank you so much for having me.
Truly appreciate it, and we're looking forward in the future to have you and Abstract to come on together.
Yes.
And we can talk to all the brothers and that whole project that you guys got going on.
Listen.
We definitely want to highlight that. And, we want to, like you said, this platform is to share what we got going on in the community and keep collaborating and keep growing.
Yes.
So, we're looking forward to it. And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening to the one and only
Falling Up Podcast.